Hello and welcome to the Paul Green Comedy PaulCast. For November 17th, 2024, this is episode 326. Stand-up comedian, actor, improviser, and dreamer, Paul Green, coming to you, sharing my thoughts, insights as I pursue my dreams in the hopes that perhaps you will pursue yours. Well, I'm getting this episode out incredibly late, and that is because yesterday was a very awesome but very long and ultimately tiring day following a very tiring weekend, and that is because I was performing with the sketch comedy troupe Patent Pending all weekend. We did 3 shows. And the shows are pretty long. They're about 2.5 hours. There's about maybe 12 or so sketches with a bunch of interludes. I had a lead role in about maybe 4 sketches and then like smaller roles and a few more. And we have been rehearsing this performance for about 3 months. So it has been a lot of work to put on this show, and we had our last show yesterday, and by the time we did the show, packed up everything, did a little cast party, and then I went out with my girlfriend for some dinner. By the time I got home, I was exhausted and conked out and slept, which was really nice. So, I'll just recap briefly this experience and what it meant and talk about a few other things for today. So, overall, doing this sketch comedy show, it was a really fun experience. It was all done independently. It was just a group of artists and creatives who just got together and just decided they wanted to produce a sketch comedy style show, and they had no financial backing, they had no supporters, they had nothing other than just their ingenuity and their desire just to put on a show. So they literally created it out of a vacuum from scratch, which is just so admirable and awesome because I'll tell you, anybody who's ever tried to produce anything, especially in the arts, just knows what an absolute beast of a task that is to, oh my gosh. Just first of all, you got to get a group of writers together, people who are talented writers who want to write and are able to do it ultimately for free as a passion project. And then from there, you got to get a cast of talented actors, again, actors who are pretty much willing to work for free, but who are also talented enough to, be good comedic actors. And then you got to find a venue, and then you got to pay for the venue, and then you got to figure out how to do props and costumes, and then marketing and advertising, and have a website, and then, print flyers, and, go figure out social media and do all of this stuff to try to get an audience there. And you got to deal with, we had about about 12 actors and actresses, and we all have wild, crazy schedules. And because this is a passion project, we're not getting paid for it. Trying to get us all in the same room at the same time is near impossible. As a matter of fact, it never happened. The first time we did an actual run-through of the entire show, top to bottom, with all of the actors and actresses in the same room, was the night before opening. Before then, we had tons of rehearsals, but there was just never a rehearsal where all of the actors could make it on the same day. So every rehearsal was like, well, what actors do we have available today, and what sketches can we rehearse? What sketches do we need to have fill-ins, for the day? I mean, it was madness. But despite all of that, it all came together. The show, I think, turned out really well. Of course, there were all the glitches and the little mishaps here, and which is going to happen even on the most professional of stages. But overall, it was a group of people who just cared about their craft, were passionate about putting on a good show, top to bottom, from the acting to the producing to the writing to the costuming to the props. There was a woman on our cast who did a ton of work on creating custom props because we had all kinds of weird avant-garde stuff in these sketches. There was a sketch that was like a James Bond spoof, and the major villain in that creates an atomic glitter bomb. And so this woman, her name is Amanda, did some sort of, I don't even know how she did it. What's that called? Paper mache or whatever. Some sort of craft, and created this gigantic glitter bomb from scratch. And then we had like a kind of a cheesy robot character, and she created this robot costume. And there's a scene where a volcano goes off, and then a bunch of lava starts to slowly consume all the people on stage. And so a couple of the actors, myself included, the costume person, also Amanda, created like lava outfits. So she bought these like yellow and orange and red like onesie kind of, I don't even know what you call them. They're like full body suits, and they go over your head as well. So you're like completely enclosed in like a yellow zip up suit, literally head to toe. And then she like glued on these like orange capes to make it look like flames. I mean, just so much effort and work into all of this costuming. And again, with like no budget, we have no money. It's all like just either paying out of pocket or, using what little money in the bank account there is. And the producer of the show, her name is Nicole, just put so much work and thought into how to pull all of this off while still being economical. And my understanding is a lot of that is going to include returning a lot of stuff to Amazon today. She was very adamant that nothing get broken. So, bless her heart. So, as for me personally, it was a great experience. It was a really random experience that it's not really something I was seeking out, but I saw a notice board for the audition, came to my email, and I just said, well, what the hell? I'll audition for this. And they invited me into the troupe. And next thing I know, I was knee deep into this project for the last 3 months. And now it is over. And I'm very grateful for the experience. I had a great time, met some incredible people, and now I am very excited for whatever is next. And I don't exactly know what that is, but I feel it's something big. So I'm just going to continue on the path now, continuing to do my stand-up wherever I can, hone that craft, and I'm still continuing to market and produce the Midlife Crisis comedy show with my comedy partner, the one and only Josh Noby. We actually have a show coming up this Thursday down in Yuma, Arizona. We sold out. We sold 80 tickets in about a week down in Yuma. So that's very, very exciting. I have another show this Wednesday up at Rick Bronson's House of Comedy, which is a bit of a milestone for me because I actually got booked by the booker of the club. So that was exciting for me that, he knows me, and I had done a show with him back on Halloween and met him. And so it was, it was nice that he actually reached out to me and officially booked me on the show. I've done shows at Rick Bronson's before, but they've all been independently produced, meaning the independent producers knew me and put me on the show. But there's something special when the actual booker, like the guy who is the guy, knows who you are and actually proactively reaches out to you and books you on the show. So very cool, very exciting stuff. So with that, let's talk about the self-help book that I have been listening to on Audible. It's called Mind Magic. It's been a very fascinating book. Some of it's over my head. It's written by a neuroscientist, and he gets into a lot of technical babble about the brain and chemicals, and I kind of lose him on some of that, but he discusses all of that within the context of what it means to actually manifest and visualize and create the life that you want using that magnificent brain that we all have been blessed with. So today's chapter was another exercise chapter. Like every other chapter, he'll do like a sort of like a guided meditation with sort of a different focus. Today, the practice was visualizing your intention. And, it's a very powerful meditation. And, oh man, it's kind of catching me at an interesting time in my development and evolution as I try to really grasp and understand how much influence I have over what it is that I'm trying to manifest and how much I am reliant on a power or a source or just dumb luck outside of myself. And if you follow the podcast, you know that I'm kind of all over the place when it comes to spirituality or religiosity or, God or all of that aspect of just being a human being on this planet when there is no shortage of philosophies and religions and theologies and, self-help gurus and meditation gurus and manifestation and visualization and The Secret and Tony Robbins and, and then you can go into any of the major world religions or any of the other, religions out there who are all trying to preach and create a framework for or a philosophy for how and who God is and how he works and how he doesn't work and when he intervenes and when he doesn't, or she or it or they or them or whatever, right? So this visualization idea starts to bump up against that a little bit with me. Now, ultimately, the practice of visualization is pretty straightforward and not necessarily anything new. I think this concept has been around. The first time I ever really encountered it was maybe around 2006, 2007 when The Secret came out. And this whole concept that your thoughts become things. And the idea of visualization, obviously is nothing more than doing a meditation, and then really picturing what it is that you are wanting to experience in your life and what it is you are wanting to manifest, and then holding that visualization, holding that picture, holding it in your heart, holding it in your mind, really trying to experience it, what it is that you want to experience in the future, but experience it in this current moment, and to be as detailed and explicit with what it is that you are seeking and wanting. And, there's definitely so many examples of that in the world. And, you look at your, the example that the book gives is Jim Carrey, who, when he was a young comic in LA, I think he wrote a check to himself for something like $5 million or $10 million or something like that. And visualized getting paid that much for a movie. And then I think it was maybe by the time he did Dumb and Dumber, or it might have been The Mask. I don't remember which movie, but, he finally became a big enough of a movie star that he actually got paid that much for a movie. If I remember right, I think that's the story goes. He actually took the actual check that he got from the movie, and I think he put it in his father's casket when his father died. I don't think he ever actually cashed the check, if I remember the story. You can fact check me on that, but I think that's how the story goes. So, there you go. I mean, there's an example. If you can hold an idea with enough emotion and enough energy and enough passion and be willing to, pursue it and be open to it, I definitely think there is some power to, visualization. So, maybe the reason there's some hesitancy in my voice is because I still have my own doubts. I still have my self-doubts, which I'm always trying to work through. But, I've had some pretty big dreams in my day. I've had some pretty big visualizations. And they haven't all come to fruition, at least not yet. So maybe that's why I still have a little bit of doubt and hesitancy, but maybe that's just what I need to work through and have more faith and be more sure of what it is that I'm seeking, and more trusting that it'll manifest itself some way, somehow. And I'll tell one story from my life that, if nothing else, was one of the most if there's not some sort of power or influence that is intervening beyond my own scope of understanding and conscious, then this series of events was by far the most coincidental lining up of events that I never could have predicted on my own. So it's one or the other. Either it was just a lottery type of alignment of coincidental events with the timing and everything, or I just have to admit, hey, there is a God up there who is involved to whatever degree he or she or it or they choose to be involved in my life. So this goes back to when I was making the decision to actually move out to LA in 2014 and 2015. And when I had first started to put it in my mind that I wanted to move to LA and really pursue acting and comedy and give it the old college try, the first thing I did was I wanted to find out how much it would actually cost me to live there. Like, everybody says it's expensive, but how expensive? How much are apartments actually? What can I actually afford? What can I find? So I started doing some research. This would have been like February of 2015. And I find that there's this room for rent in a 3-bedroom apartment. And it was like pretty affordable. I was like, oh, I could totally afford renting that room if this is actually a legit thing and not some sort of like scam posting or whatever, or a bait and switch or whatever. So I actually just called the number on this ad that I had found online on this listing. And guy answers the phone. I'm just said, hey, I'm thinking of moving to LA. I just wanted to see if this room was still available. And he goes, oh, well, we actually just rented it out, but this is kind of a bachelor pad. We always have guys coming and going. So I'll keep you in mind and let you know if we ever have a room open up. And I was like, oh, sweet. Thanks. And that was it. That was like February 2015. So then all of this incredible stuff happens, all of these seemingly miraculous occurrences that started to line up and synchronize. Like, I hadn't decided that I was moving to LA yet. I was just investigating it. And then all of this stuff happened, and I was like, oh, I think I can actually make this work. And so around September, so we're talking 6-7 months later, I am able to, my full-time job at the time said that they would let me work remotely so that I could go move to LA. So it's like, cool, I'm going to have a job out there. I'm not going to have to like drive Uber to make ends meet. And then a buddy of mine was moving out to LA at the same time, and he wanted a room with me. So I was like, sweet. I've got my buddy. We're going to be roommates. We were looking at costs of apartments, and like between the two of us, it was going to be totally affordable for us to split the rent on an apartment. And it's now like the week before I'm getting ready to move to LA. And I'm out in Los Angeles with my buddy, and we are looking for places to rent. And it's like, I need to find a place. I'm going to be moving out here in a week or whatever. And we find this apartment that we like. We fill out an application, and it seems to be going well. So me and my buddy, we're hanging out. We meet up to go have like at a coffee shop or whatever, just to talk over things. And we have our application into the realtor for this apartment. And when I meet up with Buddy, he just goes, Paul, I've really been thinking about it. I'm not sure if I want to put my name on a lease, because I'm now not too sure if I want to commit to LA long term. He's like, so if you're cool just putting your name on the lease, that would work well for me, just because, I don't want to have to like break a lease or whatever. So he's pretty much just saying, hey, I'm not going to be around for a while, which was definitely not good news for me. And I was like, no, because I can't afford this lease on my own. So if you're not actually going to commit on paper that you're going to be here, then I'm not going to sign this lease, because it's pretty clear, because then he could just up and leave anytime and leave me holding the bag. And I'm like, no, that's not a good idea. And I was actually really discouraged. Now, I was really new to dreaming, and I hadn't developed a muscle yet for handling discouragements or setbacks. I was still pretty green in the dreaming field, and it was really easy for me to get discouraged. And I remember, all right, this is a little personal, but I remember I went into the bathroom of that little coffee shop and locked the door, and I just started crying. It wasn't funny at the time. But no, I was really devastated, because I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to make this work now. Like, I can't afford to live in LA on my own. I thought my buddy was going to be there, to make this transition or whatever. And now I'm supposed to be moving out here in a week. I have no place to stay. I can't afford this apartment. And from the looks of it, I can't afford any apartment in LA because they're so blasted expensive. What the heck am I going to do? So I cry. I kind of clean myself back up. And, I kind of go back at the coffee shop. And then I'm like, hey, I need to take off. Mostly because I didn't really want to, be there. So I'm driving away. And I stop out at another restaurant. While I'm at that restaurant, I get an email from that guy who I had called way back in February. Hadn't talked to him since, hadn't even thought about him since. And he sends me an email and he goes, hey, Paul, it just turns out that we have a guy moving out of the place. Are you still looking for a room to rent? And I said, yes, I am. When is the place going to be available? And he says, well, the guy is moving out this weekend. When would you want to move in? And I said, this weekend. And he's like, well, are you in LA? When can you come look at the place? I'm like, I'm in LA now. I'll come by tomorrow. The next day, I go to the place. It's perfect. I submit an application to the landlord. And by the way, because it was just a room, it was so much more affordable than trying to do a whole apartment. And the landlord approves me. The roommate who was living there moved out on Saturday. This would have been back in September of 2015. Moved out Saturday. I came with my U-Haul on Sunday and moved in. And that was the place that I lived when I lived in LA. I lived there for 7 years in that room. So, I don't know, everybody. You make of that story what you will. I've constantly had to refer back to that experience anytime I'm feeling discouraged and anytime I'm feeling, oh, nobody cares. This dream is, it's just me versus the universe. But I look at that experience and I go, man, that was some uncanny timing that landed me in that apartment. I mean, literally within hours of my buddy telling me that he wasn't going to be able to move in with me, and I had no idea what the heck I was supposed to do. I get an email from that guy who I had just randomly called and emailed 6-7 months prior, and he actually happened to keep my contact information. And when he had a spot available, he thought to reach out to me, and it ended up being the ideal circumstance. It was the ideal circumstance for me. So, visualization. If you visualize your dream, you visualize what you want to happen. What I wanted was to move to LA and to be able to afford it. And, it just all came together as it came together in a miraculous series of seemingly insignificant events that all lined up perfectly. So there you go, everybody. There you go. So I'll go ahead and call it good for today. So thank you so much for listening to the Paul Green Comedy PaulCast for November 17th, 2024, episode 326. I love you all so much. I hope you're out there visualizing your dreams, trusting in your dreams, and that perhaps you're having some really cool experiences as you seek to pursue them. All right, everybody. I love you all so much, and I will talk to you tomorrow.